Hello, everyone. This is Melanie with astrology here for the week, and happy Gemini New Moon. As of this morning, today is May the 30th, 2022. And we just had the new moon at 9 degrees of Gemini this morning. So, can you feel more lightness, more brightness, more vibrancy in the air? I hope so, because we came through the eclipse season with this first new moon after the two eclipses, the partial solar eclipse on April 30th and the total lunar eclipse on May 16th. So yes, this is a shift, and there are a few shifts I'd like to happily report about and announce that are happening here and coming in through the cosmic energy field. So yes, let's start with the new moon. I wrote a blog article about that too, and all of you who are on the Astro News email newsletter, you would receive the full scoop, the full menu of my writings. And if you tune in at the WordPress blog, at the Astro News WordPress blog, which I like to link, right? Link articles to. There you can find specific themes, like for example for the new moon, or also for Mars into Aries, for Venus in Taurus, and so on, right? And I'd like to refer to all of this just now in a short version, in a more like visual and auditory rather than reading. That might appeal to some of you more, and maybe you don't have or don't take so much time for reading all my writings. Anyway, different channels, and that's also what Mercury retro likes. Mercury is still retro until Friday. Is it Friday? Yes, the 3rd of June. Yes, June is coming. And Mercury goes out of retro. Mercury is now end of Taurus. It moved from Gemini, it moved into Gemini, then back into Taurus, just up to like 26-ish degrees. What's the degree mark there? Something like that. End of Taurus. And from this place, you will go forward again. I'd still stay in Taurus, still be in Taurus until June 13th, and then start to go fully into Gemini, and will be in Gemini until July the 4th. So also from the mercurial side, we'll see more momentum, more dynamic mental energy, but hopefully not the mind running the show and being in charge, because that's the whole point of Mercury retro, that we came through again, another phase of that happens 3 times a year for 3 weeks. And that the purpose of that Mercury retro function, as I see it, is to lasso the mind in like a wild horse and have spirit, consciousness, the heart, the sun being the leading part again, and the leading core and center, I should say, from which we approach everything rather than the mind. Anyway, I hope your Mercury retrograde since May the what are we having? May 10th. It was a long one. May 10th until June the 3rd. Usually 3 weeks, but I think that was a bit longer this time. I hope your Mercury retro has been actually a good experience, even though I know it's often frustrating. Lots of things don't go our way, our mental planning and assumption way. So anyway, and now we had just today, this morning, the new moon in Mercury sign in Gemini. And as I mentioned in the blog and otherwise, Gemini is the alchemist of polarities. Gemini deals with polarities. typically also of the masculine, feminine energies. It's the first air sign. It's the sign that comes after Aries, being ruled by Mars, where Mars is now since May the 24th. More about that in a second. And then Taurus, where Taurus ruled by Venus, a very feminine, and where also Venus is now since May 28th. So an extra stronger masculine feminine expression, which is even more obvious for Gemini to possibly see as dualities, as polarities within oneself in the world, and yet to really bring them together, to alchemize them, and to express their union and even, dare I say, their transcendence. So the transgender trend these days, showing up on that level, is, in my sense, also an expression of us transcending these strong dualities and polarities. Whatever our attitude and opinion about that movement may be, which in itself is again very polarized. Anyway, astrology can help seeing these paradigms and seeing the patterns and seeing the context and the themes, the archetypes in all of this. That's one piece I really love about it. And it can help us have some distance, and yeah, things are really exciting that way, and we don't have to be so wrapped up and so involved and caught by it, right? So yeah, what else is going on this week? The new moon bringing fresh Gemini energy, and now what about Mars and Venus? Let's start with Mars. Also, since Mars entered Aries, its own sign, which is the first sign of the zodiac first, and that was on May 24th. And the big news for the new moon and just before the new moon was that another alignment happened, not just Sun and Moon, but also on May 29th, yesterday, Mars and Jupiter. Mars caught up with Jupiter, which is also now freshly in Aries since May 10th. And that's the first round of Jupiter in Aries until end of October 27th, and then fully from December 20th on. So Aries is really strong now after such a strong Piscean energy up to just recently, pretty much since February, or even since last December when Jupiter entered Pisces. So we've had a lot of surrender, a lot of adaptation, a lot of waves after waves that some of us were pretty overwhelmed by, yet also called to relax and to go with the flow and to really be easy, open, and not lose faith, not lose trust, stay in the momentum, keep moving, keep dancing with life, keep surfing all these waves. And now the Aries energy is much more dynamic and is much more expressive and initiating. So what's new, what's exciting? That's also what Mars and Jupiter in early Aries, which is double Aries, are a lot about. Different expressions again of that dynamic, which comes every 2 years when Mars catches up with Jupiter, but hasn't happened, or is only happening every 13 years in Aries, the sign of Mars, and that hasn't happened in a while. So Jupiter amplifies everything. So there is lots of Aries energy now and lots of Mars in Aries energy now, which is also the warrior energy. So there is, and Jupiter helps us, it's like a magnifying glass. It helps us see this theme even in a bigger way and understand it better. And through that, hopefully also outgrow what I would see in this, for example, the origin, the the original impulse for war. And of course, it has to do with division, with polarization. Again, the Gemini notion for alchemizing polarities rather than intensifying them, right? And so Mars in Aries with Jupiter really helps us see how we can be also caught in some belligerent, some hostile energy, some antagonistic energy, where it's a lot us and them, where we go into offense or defense, where our inner, where we get triggered basically and we fight. The flight impulse is rather a Piscean one. The fight one is more Aries, obviously. So where do we have the drive to fight? So Mars is very much a fight. And Jupiter really shows us the bigger picture here. And so that's one piece that's really playing into all this. And then Venus, also in her own sign now. By the way, Mars will be in Pisces. Mars will be in Aries till July 4th. Also, just as Mercury in Gemini. A bit more about that. How planets and signs line up these days, this spring, quite nicely. In a second. And to Venus now, Venus is now in Taurus, also in her own sign, since May 28th until June 22nd. And what's going to happen there, the highlight of that phase will be Venus catching up with Uranus and with the North Node that are already in Taurus, have been in Taurus for a while. So with Uranus on June the 11th and with the North Node on June the 16th, I believe. Mid-June anyway, all around the next full moon. And so Venus is pleasure, delight. Venus rules Taurus and Libra. And so in Taurus is about the delights, the enjoyment, the sweetness of spring, appealing to all of our senses. And it's really joie de vivre, it's joy, it's food, it's intake, it's shopping for some people, it's assimilation. And when she catches up with, and it's attraction, of course, right? So we're attracted to everything that is joyful and beautiful and appeals to our senses. And when she catches up with Uranus, though, Uranus is a game changer, is a paradigm shifter, awakener, disturbing energy, also disruptive energy. So there could be some instances where we feel we actually need to be free from all these, as we might see them as attachments. And we wake up to what we are have been glued to and so caught in, because Taurus is also fixed sign, so it likes to maintain and likes to preserve what is lovely and beautiful. And Uranus says, yeah, that's nice, but you can be freer than that, right? It's quite a challenging energy. Uranus is the most challenged in Taurus, while other planets are really in their own element, so to say, in their own sign, their own territory, their own most natural expression. While Uranus is the one these days that's most challenged since 2019 till 2026, 7 years in one sign. And so we've seen a lot of disruption of comfort, of the earth, of economy, of our bodies. So yeah, it's not an easy phase, but it's still the call to embody freedom with and despite all of this. Now, yes, so Venus in her own sign as well. And what else do I have on my list, which you will see then also on the YouTube cover page of this video? is, yeah, the Gemini New Moon. Yeah, Mars in Aries. Yeah, Mars in Aries also, by the way, it's very strongly about begin, be courageous, put yourself out there, get something started, initiate. So that's a beautiful expression of that. And yeah, so Mercury goes out of retro, goes direct on June the 3rd. That's on Friday, while Saturn goes retro on June the 4th. They both change directions, are both in U-turn, as I like to call it. And at the same time, they're also in square with each other. So Mercury creates a square 3 signs apart from Taurus to Aquarius, Taurus to Saturn Aquarius, while they're both stationary, while they're both slowly changing directions. What's that all about? So the Mercury in Taurus going direct has a lot to do with our having found a connection again from the mind, from the strong mental plane to our body. So, what are the voices of the body saying these days? And also the voice of nature. So, that's very much Taurus. And in the meantime, Saturn Aquarius has shown us a lot about challenges in society, in the social and societal fabric, and in systems, in organizations, and also in group consciousness. So you may have experiences of feeling kind of frustrated or disappointed, or feeling at your wits end, or at your, it's sort of with Saturn often we see the limitations. This is as far as it can go at this point with that Aquarian energy, especially if you have planets in, or Sun and Moon and Descendant in late Aquarius. You might feel rejected even, or feeling like not part of something. And this is something people, why do they not want to be with you and stuff, right? So this can bring out also old themes with authority figures, with parents in our lives, and feeling not having their approval, basically, not getting their approval. And so as Saturn goes retrograde, the theme is Saturn will be retro from June the 4th until October 22nd. Happens every year for 4.5, is this 4.5? 4.5 months, yeah. And that is a phase of finding authority. That is about authority from within. So not giving authority away, giving responsibility away, blaming others who are in charge, who are the bosses, but actually finding our own authority, which implies responsibility. And that would have to do with the whole system we're in. And now, as this Mercury Saturn square happens acutely on next weekend, building up this week for next weekend, that can be a sort of a conflict. A square is typically a conflict, also a Martian aspect. And a conflict can be between our body, between the senses, between nature and society. So maybe we are called to go more to nature, to relax, to be in our body, to trust our senses versus all these external sensors, feeling censored by others. And so nature is always unconditionally accepting, and also seeing what the body really says rather than the mind, the concepts. Late Aquarius, where Saturn presently has a Gemini undertone. So this is a lot about the mind again. And that is almost extension of Mercury retrograde with Saturn in the Gemini part of Aquarius. Anyway, this is a great phase now over this late spring, summer to mid fall, to find our inner authority and see what really works for us, who are our peers, what is a great group consciousness to be in, and who are the people whom we actually build a future together with according to our shared vision. Also a lot about awareness and teaching around sharing in general. And I shared that today with a friend. Had a little discussion, had quite an animated discussion, actually 3 hours. Didn't expect that. Regarding contribution and sharing and that whole expression that can be beautifully enacted and expressed online, but also of course offline, and that we receive. We're not getting diminished by sharing, but there's more, and that's the beautiful paradox of gifting anyway. So what else is going on this week? Yes, the moon will be waxing, of course, because now we had just today the new moon. In 2 days we'll see, hopefully we have clear skies by then, finally. We can see after sunset the waxing, the first sliver of the young moon, turning then into a waxing crescent moon. And so that's this lunar phase this week from Gemini to Virgo on Sunday evening, which is Pentecost in the Catholic world. And the highlight of that lunar phase is when the moon catches up with Lilith on that is June 1st, which is in 2 days. And Lilith is already in Cancer since mid-April and until January 8th. So once a month, the moon catches up with Lilith. And that will be only the second time since Lilith entered Aries, right? And Lilith in Cancer, she is the wild woman archetype. She has to do, that theme has to do with being in our wild heart, I call it. Home is where the wild heart is. So where is your wild heart at home? Where is your unconditioned self at home? And what's your belonging? And where do you feel you really belong when it's not about what society told you or whom you were conditioned into, but going back to that original, maybe literally the inner child a lot. It's a beautiful phase for that. In the meantime, there might be also some trouble in domestic situations, and we might feel we don't belong here. So it's often by contrast, of course, we come to these jewels and gems and nuggets. And so here's another opportunity midweek when the moon activates Lilith. I believe that's it, what I want to say today for this week in astrology. And I wish you a wonderful new moon phase, which has just begun, and a great start into June. See you again soon. Bye.